got to tell y'all about this thing called life. You know I got to share it. See, there's this thing called life. I got to tell y'all. Hey, what's good, everybody? Welcome to episode 189 of In a Good Way podcast. Today's special guest is Adrian Peña, who is a returning guest. Welcome, Adrian. It's an honor to
Thanks,
have you
man.
here.
Oh, thanks. I know you invited me like kind of in the middle of the year after you and I had a conversation. I'm here to speak about a vision and share that, but and it's related to the other one that we had. But midway through the year when you invited me when some stuff had changed, I still didn't feel compelled. So I do now, and I was kind of nudged by spirit to do this. So I'm confident in my experiences from the last time that I spoke because some of this stuff is kind of recent to me in terms of making sense of it. But it doesn't mean it's still not awkward. So I'm
Yeah.
confidently awkward about all of it right now. But
Yeah.
yeah, thank you for having me.
No, absolutely. And I I like to encourage, I always try to encourage people to share these visions, right? Whether they come true or not. It's almost like because the same, I have visions that I don't want them to come true, but I feel like it's a responsibility when they're given to me to share, right? And whether they come true or not, I just hope that at least that, right? It's seen like, well, hey, this he at least listened, right? He shared the message and this and that. So I always like to encourage others, and yeah, and to feel safe, right? This is a space where you can do that, right? If other people will look at you like you're crazy, I won't, so feel very comfortable in that. And obviously, I'm sure others will connect to it. And that especially if after you share your vision, others that had something similar, by all means, right? Drop it in the comments and
Yeah.
please share with us um anything similar that you've experienced. So yeah, by all means, if you want to go ahead. And also I'm going to put Adrian's a link to the other interview that we did. So if you want to get to know a little more about Adrian, today we're gonna focus on the vision that he had, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And
It was recent too.
yeah, and I love that you're able to share with so much detail. So we're gonna give the floor to Adrian, and yeah, we'll just listen as he shares his vision.
All right. So this stems off from a vision that I had at the beginning of last year. And without getting into that, because it matters into what I'm about to share, but just the bullet point sense of it was of last year, I had a vision at the beginning of the year. And it was actually the morning before the LA fires had been announced, where it had gotten really big. And essentially, and there's a lot of detail in that too, but this vision was big. And it was basically I was being shown one disaster, one crisis, one terrible tragedy after another, after another, after another. And it was the energy of it. So there's a few things where I got bits and pieces of it, but a lot of it was just an overwhelming sense of I didn't I wasn't able to bring some of that back with me through the veil because it's so heavy, it's so big. But I brought enough of it back to understand that it was going to be a cycle of patterns of tragedy, loss, a lot of clearing for people, a lot of change, all through the year. But it's going to lead to one potential not great moment for people. And I don't know what it was, but the vision was so big and it was so not confusing. It was so much to process, and there was so much energy that I brought back through. It wrecked me for like 4 months where I just couldn't ground it out. I was uncertain about a lot of things. I had a really, really heightened sense of anxiety. I'm usually pretty chill, really reserved, um, conflicted on as to like, am I supposed to share this? And if so, why? Like the weight of it was so heavy. And so since then, uh, I've had a lot more experiences, not on a daily basis, but a handful of times a month, having some pretty wonderful visionary experiences. And a lot of the ones that I have, they're all mostly personal. They're for me and me alone. But occasionally, when things like this come up, they're bigger than one person. And whether you're just sharing it with one other person or a community like this time I feel compelled to at least speak it out. And this is a possible future. This isn't something that could be, but the when I explain it, I'll try to not put so much doom and gloom on it, because that's not what this is about. There's enough disaster baiting out there of people. There's enough to panic about already. We don't need to take it there. So that was last year into this year. Just a few days ago, it was the evening of the 21st, the morning of the 22nd, whichever perspective you want to see it. But that night, within my visionary experience, I had a sit down one-on-one interaction with Donald Trump.
Mm.
Saying that is so weird. Like I said, I'm confidently awkward about it all because I know that it happened, but the interaction itself was so awkward. And to put this into perspective, um, for me within the visionary space, and I've gotten within these spaces through plant medicine, meditation, introspection, and breath work, and in the dream state and visionary states. And so it's helped me understand the energy of these spaces. For me, there's certain places that come into my dreams that are a visionary space and they're very deeply spiritual and they're similar. So, like, for example, I often dream about being in a movie theater. And a lot of the times for me, being within the movie theater is a potential viewing of something that's going to happen. And it's
Mm.
usually just for me. And the people in the theater represent all the people that are the closest to me relating to what I'm going to be shown in this vision.
Mm.
And so everything within this theater has a purpose and it's all connected together. They're just not random people and faces. Like there's a sense of energy of understanding that the people within this space know me, I know them, and we're about to view something that involves all of us in a potential future. And so there's different buildings and different layouts. Within this vision, the way that it came in, um, there's a space that I've been to 4 different times where I'm there to help people that are stuck within that liminal space. Up until this point, the people that I have met have been people that are either having a near-death experience and they're coming back, or they're passing and they're stuck, or there's something that, for whatever reasons, they're there to do, and somehow I have the honor to be part of whatever that is. And if they're transitioning on, I'm there at one phase. And when people share their NDEs, they talk about these different rooms, these sometimes there's different levels that they go to before they're processed or before they transition or before whatever term they use, basically,
Mm.
before they go on. And so like there's the judgment that they may feel where they think it's a judgment thing, where they're given a life review and then they meet loved ones and stuff. And so it can happen in a certain order. Within this space, um, it feels like I'm in home. In my living room is where I was sitting. But the layout was similar to like a hotel lobby
Mm.
where it's an open space. And then if you walk down a corridor, there's hallways that split. And they're just
Mm.
long, deep hallways, um, look like a hotel room corridor. That's pretty much what this was like. And so in this space where there's all these doors and they're always the same color, they're like a dark olive. I want to say olive green, but the color isn't static. It's not a still color. It has an iridescence to it. So it's like a bluish green,
Mm.
but it's specific. It's a specific color to this place. It's what helps me recognize that I'm in this space because the layout of the hallways are different. The layout of the furniture is different, but the doors are always the same color, always. And so I'm in this space where I'm sensing that this is my living room. I'm sitting on a couch, and the couches are across from each other with a coffee table in the middle. My awareness is in the space first, and then sitting directly across from me is Donald Trump.
Mm.
And at first he's as he looks now, and then in putting my conscious awareness to him, he gets younger.
Mm.
Um, so he was maybe in his 30s or 40s during this interaction. Um, And a lot of the times when some people have visions, they may ask, why me? You know, why am I having this? Why I'm experiencing? But in the moment, I wasn't questioning that. I was questioning why him?
Mm.
Why you? Like, why are you in this space? Because what I know of you here, you shouldn't be here. Flat out. Because again, the sense of the space I was in is this is my home. Like whatever
Mm.
part of that liminal space that I visit often, it's carved out just for me and that energy around it, it has that home feeling. And so it wasn't within my own bedroom. It wasn't within an intimate space. It was within an open space that you would invite a guest to. So For whatever reason, spirit brought us together, and he was in what I consider to be my liminal sacred space. And so I was a little bit put off at first, and we were questioning each other at the same time because he
Mm.
flat out asked me, he goes, "Who are you? Why?" And he kind of wanted to know a sense of why I was here. And it wasn't a conversation, it's all thought form. And so it's an exchange of energy and emotion and thought and less running your mouth kind of a thing. And so once we got through the awkward energy, things quickly shifted. And I explained it to you when we first talked about it, where even though that's the physical space that I was in, and from my conscious awareness of it looking the way it looked, like I explained, the feeling also is it was like as though if you took two actors off of stage, their scene ends, they go behind the curtain, they're still in their makeup, they're still dressed up wearing the wig, but they don't have to do their lines. They don't have to play that character behind the curtain. But we're still kind of dressed up because our scenes aren't done. We got to go back. But it had that sense of we were behind the curtain, behind the veil in this space, and it was like two actors talking about their parts, their craft, their parts of the script. They got their sides and they're like, "Oh, this is next week. This is what I'm going to do." And so it had that sense of a feeling of like I didn't feel like I needed to be confrontational with him. I didn't feel like I needed to be overly welcoming. I realized it was like, no, this is just an exchange. We're on the same level within this space from my perspective.
Yeah,
Not from his though.
yeah.
Um, and part of what it took me a while to understand what that awkwardness is, and it's because, like I said, I didn't think he belonged in that space. Well, that's not right. I questioned why he was there.
Mm.
Um, and mostly it's because I didn't think that much of the human experience could be that thick and heavy there. And I'm
Mm.
talking about the ego, the part of us, like the character, he was still trying to play that character. So the
Mm.
Donald Trump character that we know here in this existence, he tried to bring as much of that behind the curtain as he could. He enjoyed it. Um,
Mm.
it was very tongue in cheek on a soul level because in this space, I'm not looking at the Donald Trump that we know. I'm looking at the soul that is portraying Donald Trump. And so within this space, you can't help but see the beauty, the love, and the wonder in a person. Like it's an awesome experience to be within this energy. And he was giving some of that off too, but it was like he was he was just really hard. He really had his heart set on being so proud of this character that he gets to play that he just didn't want to break character. And so it was him
Mm.
trying to manipulate me and gauge whether I liked him or I hated him. And
Yeah.
it's like that stuff doesn't work here. Like that's not what this space is for. This is all about love. This is about acceptance. Whether you're coming back or you're going wherever you're going, however you feel about who you think you are in your in your moments where you're judging yourself. I'm not trying to do that. I'm just curious about this and a little put off. Um, so within this space, one of the things about it too is time doesn't exist. And so it can make it a little bit challenging to be oriented enough to know what order some things are happening in. Um, some things can feel like they're happening all at once. And by that explanation too, with this interaction that we had in this liminal space, it could be an experience that he may not have had embodied yet, meaning it could happen a week from now for him, 2 weeks, a month, a year. I don't know. Or it could have happened at the same time. But from my experience, it happened on the night of the 21st.
Mm.
So in that analogy that I put to where it's like two actors talking, it turned into that. We were both relaxed, and I got a sense that we had this really drawn out conversation. And while I don't fully know the content of most of the conversation, I know enough to know that he was extremely proud of what he has planned. Like whatever his next scenes are going to be, um, he's really excited to portray them, and it's not great. It it's kind of like in movies where the villain wants to monologue before they try to, kill the good guy, and then it doesn't work and they get busted because they're monologuing too long. It was like that, except there was no threat of anyone coming to stop him. It was him just taking a lot of pleasure in explaining stuff, and it was unsettling.
Mm.
And I was aware enough to know like as much love and there is in this space and as honest I was trying to be at my perspective, embodying it the moment that I came through, I had a sense of knowing like when I bring this back, I know how unsettling this is going to feel. And there was a little bit of that creeping in the moment to where I wasn't feeling it, but I could feel it. I knew what was going to be waiting for me when I kind of was pulled out of that environment. And he wasn't a sociopath. He was extremely intelligent in this space, well spoken, um, extremely confident and comfortable, and thoroughly enjoyed whatever you liked him or hated him. He just wanted to know what part of him you liked or hated. Because to him it was all the same. Like to him it's admiration. For him it's like so long as you know that I exist and you know who I am, whether it's good or bad, I'm eating it all up and I'm
Mm.
thoroughly enjoying myself. And whether you're enjoying yourself or not, it's I'm loving it. Um,
Mm.
Not in a sadistic way, in this real playful way, like a childlike way. That part feels unsettling.
Mm.
In this moment. So we get to a point to where I remember the last thing I said to him within this space. And he finished telling me something, and this is where the mood had shifted because he was telling his favorite part, the part that is unsettling, and I still don't know what the potential of it is, but it's big. Either
Mm.
he's going to do something very, very, very terrible, or something really, really terrible is going to happen to him, or both.
Mm.
I'm not sure which. Um, but the part of the conversation I got to remember was he finished telling me something, and he goes, "So, uh, kind of proud of himself, like." So what do you think? And I'm like, well, I heard everything you said. It's just that what you said is not worth hearing. It's not worth listening to. And I wasn't trying to chide him. I wasn't trying to be petty. It was just an honest reflection on what he was telling me. And he didn't like that. I felt
Mm.
this level of anger pull up, and I think the weight of that snapped the vision out because it ended. And I
Mm.
woke up going, what the actual fuck happened? What? Because what? Of all the people to meet in this space, of all the people that I could have been energetically tied to, it was him.
Mm.
Um, yeah, yeah. And it was a one-on-one. It wasn't a crowded room. It's not like it was a dream that morphed into anything. Everything stops within this space. And it becomes very clear of the area that I'm in. And it's not about controlling the vision, it's just being aware enough to see what's happening around you and taking it all in emotionally.
Mm.
Um, the weight of that when I woke up, all the loving, wonderful, whatever goodness I felt in my heart within that space, coming back through the veil and bringing that with me, it sucked. Just
Mm.
it didn't feel great. I was confused still, like why him? I wasn't thinking why me? Why am I seeing this? Why is it more of this? It was more of like why him? Like I'm cool with having these visions and experiences. I enjoy the relationship that I have with my guides and the way that my path has unfolded for me. It's been exciting. It's just one of these weird pit stops along my spiritual path that it was weird. It was so weird. Still weird to run
Yeah.
into. Um,
But all that makes sense to me, especially, all the things you mentioned. I've ran into people in the spirit world, that I'm like, yeah, why? But after it kind of makes sense, right? There's things that make sense about it. Um, Also the acting thing, I get that. I got to play a bad guy before, and it was unsettling because I didn't know. It was just like, hey, you want to work? Yeah, of course. And then boom, I show up, still not really even understanding what I'm about to play. And then once I find out it's a bad person, I'm like, makes my stomach turn. I'm like, shoot, while I'm already here, I'm already dressed up, whatever. But there's people that I would have never imagined that get a bad guy role, and they're like all gleeful, like, oh, I love it. It's my
Yeah, and
so
there was that sense too. I forgot it. We had when we had first spoke about it, it was that sense of he was because the way that I questioned him and was kind of pointing out all the wonderful things I saw in him in that moment, because it wasn't me complimenting him, it was me just seeing what's coming off of him
mm,
in that liminal space, between his pretending that he had. I'm like, that's the character. I'm talking about what's behind that.
mm.
Um, he knew and he had a very I was trying to convince him to be the good guy. And I was like, you
Oh,
have all the talents and all the whatever to be this type of great, but you're choosing to be this type of great. You're choosing to be a great villain instead of a great hero. But in his perspective, it's just like when most actors that are really talented, they get excited to play a villain because usually by contrast, the villain is a lot more dynamic, a lot more
mm,
interesting. They get to take more liberties and play it a straight way because people enjoy a variety of villainy. We like a good thing to look at to dislike. But with our heroes, they have to fit in a certain archetype and they have to fit in a certain box. And so you have to play within those confines. And some actors apparently find that a little bit stifling, a little bit stiff. It makes it, I guess, challenging. I don't know. I'm not an actor, but I've heard them in interviews and share, but they love to play the villain. Like a good actor loves to play the villain.
yeah.
And that's what this felt like. Like he understood, like, no, 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 there's more depth. Like there's more fun I get to have being this version of Trump
Mm,
instead of being this way. Um, I was hopeful that there'd be some sort of appeal to kind of maybe consider it. It's like, look, you're gifted at swinging that hammer, but imagine how many things you can build versus how much stuff you're tearing down. Like it, yeah, the energy was heavy with it, but he's very proud of himself and he's thoroughly enjoying playing the part that he's playing right now. And he understands like he understands there's consequence, but it's like he's grounding it out within the moment. Like
yeah.
he's walking as light as he can. Whether you hate him, his guts, whatever he doesn't care. Like he's enjoying it. He's either way he understands he's manipulating you because even in this embodied experience of this part that he's playing of President Donald Trump, um, a lot of it's not sticking to him. He's he's keeping himself so light for some reason.
Wow.
I don't know if it's the guilt that he hasn't been confronted with or what. I think that's partly what bothered me. I'm like, why isn't as much of this sticking to you as I would hope? And from a soul level, he's like, I'm playing this part. Like this is
Yeah.
not that he gets a pass, but it's whatever he's doing, he's trying to keep himself as light as possible about it all.
Yeah, yeah. It's almost like he's very aware that this is what he signed up for.
Yes, that's what it felt like. And
Yeah.
I don't want to assume that I know his soul contract or whatever he has planned, but just that interaction and that little, one-on-one exchange that we had.
Yeah. But it's like just to like for example, the acting thing, how you said, it's true. Like even Heath Ledger, right? Amazing actor. I didn't see a lot of his stuff till after he passed, but what is he remembered for? Playing the Joker.
Hmm.
That's his Holland's opus, right? His big, right? It's playing this bad guy. But it even led him to like it messed him up in the head. Like it literally messed him up in the head to play this character, to where yeah, like he really got into this character where they said he kind of it seems like he never fully recovered from being this character, right? But so
Yeah.
it's interesting that you say like Trump feels so light and fluffy about it. And I could get that. I feel that energy as you're saying it. I can see that, right? And for some reason, yeah, we remember these, like I guess like Hitler, right? Everybody knows who he is. There's this notoriety. Look at Pablo Escobar, right? Wow, everybody to where kids want to be like that, right? You got the narco corridos and everything. So there is this kind of thing with being the bad guy, right? In this
And
world that is so appealing, right?
yeah, yeah, exactly. And I guess to describe it a different way is it's like I don't know if this is how he keeps it light, but it's almost like whether however you feel about him, he's like, you're playing yourself. You're letting me manipulate your feelings. So if you
Mm,
hate all this hate you carry, all this hate you're throwing at me, whatever admiration you're throwing at me, I manipulate it. I'm calling that energy in. I'm asking for it. You're giving it to me without me asking for it really, but I'm ready to receive it. And from his perspective, it's like you're playing yourself, like you're being manipulated. And so I think maybe that may be why some of this energy is not sticking to him. It's a lot of like, it's I have my energy. This is how I'm choosing to use it. I don't care how you receive it. I just know this is what I want to put out. And then whatever you're giving to me, I've manipulated into you doing that. And I'm living in your head rent free. Whether you love me or hate me, I'm there. I'm in your consciousness. And I love it.
Yeah, and there's only been one energy that I came across that was like that. And everybody knows this about him, or most people do about Donald Trump. Uh, and I've came across this where it blew my mind that even in the spirit world, I was like, whoa, this is new. I've never experienced this. Because usually I could see the real person in the spirit world, right? Like their higher self or, different from who they are here. But um, like the narcissist, right? So he's obviously like he's a narcissist, and that energy even translate to that because exactly what you're saying, that's their thing. They feed on that. Whether you like them or hate them, they feed on the admiration, whether it's hate or love. They don't care. They just need the admiration, right? So that entity that exists with that. I say entity because I've been shown like this spirit of narcissism, which was pretty interesting, right? But yeah, so as you're saying that, I'm like, wow, this guy's like the real deal when it comes to that, embodying that, right?
Yeah, he's like the Michael Jordan of narcissism in a way
Yeah,
that and and part of the reason why I'm okay with sharing this, because I don't think I need to add to the pile of things of the list of things of why I did not like this guy. And
yeah,
it I had to really sit down and reflect and make sure that I kept myself in check. Because I try to make sure that even the people that I dislike, I can find some common ground in there and just let things go. Like I'm a human being, so I'm still gonna feel how I feel about it. But in the same way, kind of like what he was saying, it's like I don't want to let these people live rent free in my head. And it's my energy. If I have to choose how I give it, I'm just gonna let it go. Like it's not worth the fight. It's not worth it. I'll stand up and applaud if there's something great to applaud about, but otherwise I'm just gonna be the casual observer and just let them be them. But the whole point of sharing this is because the one thing that came through in that self-reflection of that interaction I had with them, because I sat on it for a handful of days before I mentioned it to you,
mm,
which I want to get to in a minute about the synchronicities of the confirmations that came through after this, that not just confirmed what I experienced, but also giving me a nudge to come and share. But basically, it's this through all the crises and all the tragedies that we're experiencing, and there's still going to be more, um, it comes down to us having a choice of feel how we feel about it. Like peop how immigration, what's going on with ICE. You and I understand we're people of color, and it's not, I still feel a little bit anxious about it sometimes, but ultimately it comes down to we have to decide whether or not these things are going to bring us together or drive us apart. We're going
mm.
to have some more division or not. And it comes down to whatever does or doesn't happen, whatever the potential future is from this vision that I had, which of course, saying that Trump's going to do something terrible may not surprise anyone. You may not have need to be spiritual to come to that conclusion, but whatever it comes, it's like let's let's try to let it go. Let's try to come together and not let it divide us, whatever terrible thing happens. Because we're coming to that point of whether this is going to bring us closer together or further apart. And it sounds so cheesy, it sounds so cliche.
No,
It's pretty much what everyone's speaking, and it's good. Um, Sometimes I roll my eyes at it because it becomes a talking point for politicians to, the thoughts and prayers stuff. Shut
yeah,
up.
yeah,
Um, it's condescending when it comes from places of authority from people who can do something about it. But we're those people too. Like we may not have a position of authority to influence on that level, but within ourselves, we at least need to be responsible for that. And so that was what spirit came through for me afterwards. It's like, yeah, you had this. Yeah, it's rattling. And I didn't want to be put off again like I was the last time from last year when I had that experience because it was pretty heavy. So it was a little bit easier for me to pick myself up. Not that I'm saying I'm ignoring everything or that I'm jaded. It's just I'm trying to I'm getting a clear understanding of how much control I don't have over what the environment around me. But that's not to say that there's not ways I can positively influence it, even in the worst moments. And so that was like the reason for sharing the message. It's not because of the doom and gloom. It's just to say, look, more stuff's going to happen potentially. That there's going to be a lot of struggle. It's going to be a lot of challenge and obstacles. But we're not in this alone. Like we're all maintaining society together from different parts of what we do have with our day and our time. It's just if we can make one small change of what that day or that time looks like for us and how we spend it, um, it helps. Just give yourself 5 more minutes of maybe some quiet. Maybe once you start to see stuff scrolling, quiet your social media feed because there's so much manipulation within social media, consciously and subconsciously. But uh, Spirit made sure to immediately come through with some synchronicity and some support to make sure that I was good, that the positive messages came through after that, um, and that I wasn't full of myself. Because it's
Mm.
easy to get into an ego space of once you ask the why me, and then you realize, like, oh, because I'm special or unique. And it's like, okay, but why? You spend that time questioning it, and you get to the point where that can lead you to, well, I'm this amazing thing. And then you think then you get a little bit misguided, and then, you stink up the room, with being pretentious, spiritually pretentious. Um, but I'm speaking from an honest place. I'm not trying to embellish or color any of this experience. It's not like it happens all the time. But in terms of this big scale, but I'm grateful to have these experiences. I'm grateful to be this in touch with myself in a way that I'm not running from these visions anymore. Before I had mentioned in my first interview with you that when I had started this years ago, when I started to have these spiritual experiences, it was the same day that you realize that you can fly is the moment and the same day that you realize you're afraid of heights. So
Mm.
I ended up getting past that. And so now I'm more concerned of like, you know, uh, I'm cool with the flying part and I'm able to do it without the fear. And now I'm more just trying to figure out what's the safest way to land. And I'm getting
Mm.
better at those. So it's less crashing and burning after some of these experiences and exchanges, and more of a nice gentle gliding and understanding how to kind of be grounded within these experiences. Um, and as important as these visions are and how brief they are and how confusing they can be to make sense of, sometimes it takes days, weeks, or months to make sense of it. But this came through clear, um, quickly, and then the confirmations came through too.
Mm.
Um, and I'm just curious, because I felt compelled to email you specifically from your perspective with the synchronicities because I had some experiences. I shared a screenshot with you to show some stuff that had some meaning for me. And the reading that you did, because I was just, like I said, I already was confident in the experience and spirit signed off on it. You just needed to notarize it. And so the cards that you pulled and the order that you pulled of the numbers that you pulled and the things that you said were really resonant with me in a very specific way. And I shared that with you because there's parts of it that the synchronicity and how it came through, and even the vision part was very similar to a portion of the book, The Alchemist by
Mm.
Paulo Coelho. I'm curious what it was like on your end of me sharing. Like, I mean, you read the email that I sent that got us to this point. Like, how did that hit your ears? What did you pick up from that when I shared that vision with you and that experience?
I mean, it wasn't um I felt like they brought the message. See, when I hear these things, I'm like, okay, let's do it. Let's share it. I think even that, right? When I was younger and I would get things, um, I think it was my hope and my dream that others would be getting these things too and sharing. So for me, it's a breath of fresh air to be like, all right, we're at this time now. And well, I was gonna share this at the end, but I could interject it real quick. I'm gonna try to make it as brief as possible because I know you wanted to share a little more about the
No, no,
synchronicities.
no. Take your time.
Wow, for example, like I see these things, and so maybe back in the days, um, people didn't have internet access, and you can't see all the things that happen. We know that even in some maybe medieval times they wouldn't people wouldn't be taught to read or wouldn't have all this access to just a selected few, right? A lot of times the religions, right, the gatekeepers of the knowledge, or so there's always been gatekeepers to knowledge. But in this time, we know, what was I saying? Let me see. Interesting little distraction. um yeah, so we know that in history there were gatekeepers to knowledge, right? There were gatekeepers. And so now in this time, and that's what I see, everything's just a repetitive cycle, like Trump. They've compared his thing, what he's doing, to what happened with Hitler, right? That this is how it happened. People have said there's no way you cannot see the parallel. So what's different in this time is that we can communicate at the speed of light, like across the world, to where, or just across the country, to where everyone can organize. So I think these patterns that are repeating are for us. So we know he's playing his part. Are we gonna play ours? That's how I see it. Like, and if we don't do something about it, what's gonna happen is gonna happen, and then we're gonna leave it till generations down that they could stop it. So these cycles keep repeating until and maybe not necessarily, because if people don't let it get to a point, it doesn't have to be violent. It doesn't have to get to that point. But that's the thing. It's almost like that when they say, I don't know, I'm getting a weird feeling as I'm saying this. So I don't know. I'm trying to read it right because my stomach's kind of turning as I'm saying this. So I'm trying to understand why that's happening right now, speaking about this. I don't know why. It's like, hopefully it's not gonna get to that as bad as it got before, right? Maybe that's it's a weird feeling of, yeah, I don't know. I guess um yeah, I really don't know. That kind of threw me a little off. So I don't know what that was about. Just this weird, not good feeling, right? Maybe it's kind of confirming like what you were seeing in this like, oh, the next thing, right? Whatever. But I feel that the lesson is as much, just like he's trying to play his part. Are we learning the lesson, right? Are we finally gonna be able to send the world in a good trajectory? Right? And with that, I'm feeling more, my stomach feels lighter. So I'm guessing that's kind of, so I want to add more because that's making me feel good, right? Are we going to send the world in a good trajectory? So
Right.
that's kind of what it is, right? I think we're supposed to learn from the past, right? Like the whole, if you don't know history, you're just going to repeat it, or however, whatever famous sayings have existed throughout time. And it's like, are we finally going, as you were talking, I don't know what you were saying, but I was seeing all these things and beautiful things too. I was seeing like a lot of unity. Oh, I think that's what you were talking about. Um, Something about what are we gonna do with that or something. Well, I forgot what you were saying, but when
Yeah.
you were
How we
saying
respond
something,
to the crisis
yeah, how are we
is
gonna
what we
respond
do
to
with
the
our
crime?
energy.
Yeah, I even saw it like that, like star people walking with us, like all this, like, so I know that those are all possibilities, right? Like, how are we gonna respond to this, right? And yeah, so it was interesting that image, I was getting different images, right? I saw like him creating this chaos, and then I saw like when you were talking about the reaction, and I saw that. And so that was interesting to see, like star people walking even with us. So we are getting help, more help than we realize. But I feel like that we do have to take action. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, so that's a huge thing. We have to take action. I wonder if people realize that, or to what point, we keep allowing for things to get worse and worse. But I think that's the key word. We're allowing it. So are we ever gonna learn like, how much are we gonna allow, right? And he's anxious to play his part, and he's gonna do that. Are we gonna play our part? So I'll just say that. That's kind of what I was feeling. So when I read your email, yeah, I was just, okay, cool. I'm glad someone's getting messages, right? To me, it's like, yeah, whoever's getting the messages, all right, let's share them, right? Let's share them, because I've known other people that had really, what I feel are very important messages, but they weren't ready to share them. So I don't want to share their vision. I feel like it was given to them to share, so it kind of ends with that. So yeah.
Yeah. And I was just curious because I only told my wife, and I
Mhm.
only told and I only told one other friend. Um, the synchronicity I shared with a couple other people, that part's amazing. And so the other reason why I felt comfortable with sharing is when the visions come through and I was going through this experience of trying to make sense of things for myself, one of the biggest helpful things for me was people being comfortable enough and willing enough to share their experiences, and not just what the experience was, but also how the experience happened and why it happened.
Mm.
There's book ending this experience, and they would say, "Oh, so this thing happened," but then they would say also like, "Well, here's what happened before, and here's what happened after." In terms of like, was I grounded out? How did this experience affect me? That kind of thing. So how these things come to people is important because for me, it gives me perspective, and then doing that, it helped me make sense of these experiences that I'm having. So not trying to be the spiritual teacher, but in sitting in I don't have a sacred circle to sit into and share this off of other people. I mean, I have a handful of friends, but it's helpful to hear how other people kind of register these experiences through their soul senses. When it hits their nervous system, the practical part of interpreting these things, like what does it look like? And it's different for everyone. And so for me, I just wanted to share part of that too. And it comes down to synchronicity. So besides the embodied feeling like you just had, where you're responding to your gut, sometimes interruptions happen, your phone rings, the universe
Mm.
steps in. So whether it's from you're catching it, what's happening within or without, you're just being aware of it. And so hearing different people share, that's why I wanted to share it. So I emailed Omar, and I did it after having an amazing fairy tale kind of order of synchronicities. So back in 2004, I had read the book called The Alchemist. And since then, throughout my life, I've reread it every so often, every few years or every few months. And there's different parts of the book that I identify with again.
Mm.
Um, and so there's a portion of the book, and I'll try to keep it as brief as possible and um, try not to butcher it. And so basically, the fable of the alchemist is there's a young boy who goes on a journey um, to basically find his purpose in life, to fulfill his personal legend. And at the beginning of it, he doesn't know what that personal legend is yet. He thinks he's already living it. He's a shepherd.
Mm.
And so he meets a king and gets some help interpreting his dreams and his visions. And he's encouraged along the way. The money comes and goes. He ends up in all these different positions in different ways. But the part that's important that was kind of cut out of the story that I got to experience in this life, bits and pieces of it, just in the last few days, was it's almost towards the end of the book. And spoiler alert if you haven't read it yet. But I got to spoil this little bit of a part because it's important. And feel free to edit in the picture that I sent you if you want.
Okay.
It's with the timestamp on it. Um, so within the story, he just meets the love of his life at an oasis that he's stuck at because there's tribes that are at war within the desert. And the vision that he had is his personal treasure and his personal legend that he's supposed to fulfill is buried somewhere near the pyramids in Egypt. And so it's him journeying through the desert and he's stuck at this oasis because there's a big war. While he's stuck there, he meets this girl that he ends up falling in love with, and he's in a contemplative walk. And in the book, they're saying he's in meditation, but he's walking and his awareness is in front of him, but not really paying attention to his surroundings. He's just kind of in his thoughts. And then while he's on this walk, he gets a sense that he's supposed to look up. Then he realizes there's these two hawks flying in the air, and he watches them intently because he's drawn to them. He has this feeling that um, there's something that the universe is trying to tell him, that
Mm.
that nature is trying to speak to his soul in a very specific way. So he watches the flight of these hawks, trying to figure out what message is in it. And while he's focusing on them and contemplative, one hawk dives down and attacks the other. And in that
Mm.
moment, he has a flash of a vision, and it's the oasis being attacked. It startles him. He kind of questions it, but not really. The vision ends as quickly as it came on, and he moves his awareness away from watching these hawks and he's trying to figure it all out. And he starts thinking about the king that he met at the beginning of the story, who's letting him know, like, you just saw an omen, you're supposed to heed the omens. And he's questioning himself. So I saw this thing happen. It was terrible. Um, I know enough about how I felt about it to know that it's true and it's something that's going to happen, but I don't know what to do about it.
Mm.
Do I share or do I not? Um, and he had echoes in his mind of the old king letting him know, always heed the omens at any cost. You want to speak what you see within that's around you within the universe. And so while he's questioning it, he ends up trying to head back somewhere across town in this oasis that he's in, and he has a conversation with the camel driver. Basically, he's telling the camel driver what just happened and how conflicted he was. And the camel driver tells him his perspective, but ultimately the camel driver, and I'm paraphrasing, basically lets him know, um, look, I understand, and there is this one other guy, was a camel driver, and he wanted to know his future, so he went to go see a seer, and he wanted to know his future, and the seer was like, well, why? If it's something good or bad, if it's something good, it's going to ruin your surprise. If it's something bad, you're going to be in misery about it until it happens. And
Mm.
so you're really not served by following this path of curiosity. Just leave things be, and you'll find your joy and your purpose in the moment. And so he tells that little story about the other camel driver, and he turns to the young man and basically tells him this. And he says, look, a lot of people get visions. It happens. All through history, people have gotten visions, and they've been great visions that they've had to tell. This time it's you. This
Mm.
time you're the one with it. And again, when the camel driver told him that, he's has thoughts of his mind echoing of the king of always heed the omens. So he's like, all right, let's go. So camel driver takes him to the tent outside where all the great chieftains are within the oasis. And they're conferring on stuff after he tells one of the soldiers out front what to do. And so he waits for a couple of hours and they beckon him in. And it's all these Arab men sitting in a tent. It's a really nice ordained tent he didn't expect to be in, out in the middle of the desert. He tells them what he saw, and they question him. This conversation erupts between the chiefs on what to do, and then the main chief speaks, and he basically says, look, we have a tradition in the Oasis, basically, that says no man is supposed to carry arms. And we also have a tradition that this is a peaceful place because no matter which tribe you are in the desert, there's women and children here. And so this is a place of peace and respite, kind of a thing. But he was like, we're going to break tradition. So we're going to listen to what you're saying. So we're going to arm everyone in the Oasis. But he lets them know that there's a cost. And he tells them, like, for every for every 10 men that we kill, you get a piece of gold. But if this doesn't happen and these bad guys don't show up, we're going to kill you.
Yeah,
I mean, I'm paraphrasing, but
yeah.
basically, this vision's going to cost him his life potentially.
Mm.
So high risk, high reward. Either he's right, he saves everyone in the Oasis, and the byproduct of that is he runs into some riches, right? The other side of that is it doesn't happen. He made these people break their tradition to pull out weapons where they really just want to be peaceful. And then there's a punishment for it, and it's his life because a
Mm.
price has to be paid for either lying or not being true to the vision that you had. And so reeling from this, they dismiss the boy, and he's in his head like, what just happened? Like, I hated the omens. I know what I felt was true, and I just shared it, but it may cost me my life. And he's basically saying, all right, universe, better get me out of this because I'm doing what you told me to, right? And while he's in his head about this, he gets startled in the desert. This wind blows, there's dust everywhere, and there's this big, huge white horse in front of him. And on top of it is the alchemist himself. And
Oh.
that's as far as I'll take it. So the reason why I tell that is because here's how synchronicity came through for me. Now, before I do, what were you going to say?
No, no. Well, I don't think I was gonna say anything. I think I was
Okay,
just listening.
okay, sorry. So with that little excerpt in mind, I know I butchered it because there's a lot left out, but those are the beats that were important because for me, this is how I experienced it. I was a little unsettled that morning of the 22nd. And so I work a regular job now. And so part of this is me getting used to going from the duality of having such a deep spiritual experience in vision, and then within just a few minutes, I'm doing this mundane menial task kind of thing, and then having to solve problems that shouldn't exist as human
Mm.
beings. But I have to be a human, and so I sit at my desk and play human. And so all this is reeling in my mind, and I'm having a hard time kind of shaking it because I want to sit and I want to use my conscious awareness, my thoughts, my mind, my faculties to spend time with this, but I can't because I got this job that I have to do. So I buckle down and I focus, and it gets to a point where I'm like, all right, I need to go for a walk. Now, when I walk, I put my earbuds in. I'll listen to your podcast or an audiobook or other podcasts, something to kind of, or sometimes I'll just listen to frequency.
Mm.
And so I was like, all right, cool. I was listening to something, it ended, and then there's one podcast that I watch from a teacher. Her name is Constance Mesmer. Highly recommend her. She's a great teacher. She shares so much about interpreting these things. And this particular video was on clairaudience. So it's the morning of the 22nd. I see that it's on. I'm so in the rush of work. I just want to get out of the building to just stretch my legs and not be there and to give it some thought. So the video starts playing of her podcast. I'm half listening to it, but I'm more just walking my pace. Um, when you walk and you have just enough awareness to know, I'm not going to run into any car, not going to bump into anyone. So while I'm walking and I'm half listening to this, and I'm in my head about that experience of like, man, did that just happen? And I literally question like, is this happen? Why did this happen? And I'm questioning like the same way that the alchemist, the young boy Santiago was questioning it. I was questioning things, and Spirit told me to look up. Spirit said, look up. So I look up, and right above me, maybe 15 feet, 20 feet at most, were two hawks.
Mm.
And I pull my phone out and I was like, oh, the moment I see them, I recognize that they get my attention because Spirit told me to see them. And I hadn't done the math yet. I pulled my phone out to take a picture of them because I knew it was important for some reason. So I pull my phone out, pop the case off, take a picture. The podcast is still going. And then when I take the picture to look at it, I happen to see what time it was on my phone. And it was 11:11.
Mm.
Now, for me, 11:11 comes through sometimes to get my attention of that's Spirit confirming, like, yeah, what you're
Mm.
saying is true, or what you like, that's a confirmation. That's a wink and the nod from Spirit. And so I see the two hawks, and at first I'm thinking, oh, the two hawks happened at 11:11. That got my attention. And then I said, wait a second, why does this feel familiar? Because hawks have always been important to me. They've always showed up for me at certain times. Birds in general.
Mm.
I mean, one of my tattoos, I have some birds.
Oh, okay.
I'm a guitar player, and one of my favorite guitar makers is Paul Reed Smith, PRS. And these birds are out. They're on the inlays of the neck on the fretboard.
Oh,
Yeah, they're beautiful guitars. But so the birds are important, and it's 11:11, and then the moment it comes through, just a few milliseconds after I realize it dawns on me, and I was like, that's what happened in The Alchemist,
yeah,
when he saw the two hawks. And I was amused with myself.
yeah.
So amused that I was just like amused with myself and how like proud of myself for listening. Like I'm glad that I'm open to catching these when I'm so in my head.
Mm.
I'm searching for answers, and sometimes they don't just come from within. Sometimes you got to pay attention to what's around you because Spirit wants to play with you on the human side too.
Mm.
And so I'm thinking like I gotta let my wife know because when I woke up and I told her about this vision, um, she questioned it because it was a little hard for her to be like, okay, because I've shared stuff with her and she's usually on board with stuff, even if she doesn't understand it. She's open to hearing it. But this one was hard for her, and it was hard for me too. And I had
Mm.
texted her like right when I had got to work, like letting her know like how uncomfortable I was and he was going to do something terrible or something terrible was going to happen to him. And she's like, it'll be all right. You just try to get through your day, giving me some encouragement. So I'm thinking she's going to love this, right? Because I didn't want to go to work, but Spirit told me you need to go to work. Like I thought about calling out.
Mm.
Spirit's like, no, you need to be at work. And so I was thinking right after that, I was like, this is why I was supposed to be at work. These birds showed up.
Mm.
I needed to have this moment. Because I needed that confirmation. And it put me at ease immediately once I had the realization. All the uneasiness, all the uncertainty of whether or not um I should speak on it with confidence. Not share it, but at least speak on it with confidence. And while I'm thinking that, I'm like, okay, I need to let her know. And I was replaying to make sure, like, do I have this right? Like, this happened in this sequence. And as I was replaying it, and I got to the part where I was like, and Spirit told me to look, Spirit said, look up. As I was thinking that, the podcast was still playing. Constance Mesmer, she was looking for the definition of clairvoyance that she has. And she'd gotten to a point because I was half listening. Right when I was thinking Spirit told me to look up, she said Spirit told me to look down.
Uh,
I I lost my shit laughing because the synchronicity of it was awesome. And it made me focus on the podcast. And so I backed it up a little bit and I was like, wait, why did Spirit tell her to look down when Spirit was telling me to look up when I was going through it in my mind? And she was talking, the episode that I happened to be watching was her talking about being clairaudient, listening to the
mm,
signs of the nudgings internally, and it's leading you to something else. And what Spirit told her to look down for was because she was trying to give the definition of clairaudience as she knows it, but she didn't have it in front of her, and she had it on another device that she couldn't get. And when she was telling people to go on her website, Spirit interrupted her and told her to look down. And she goes, "Oh, it's right here." She goes,
ah,
Spirit said, look down. And she found what she needed and she gave the definition. That was another confirmation of basically always heed the omens. That was what
yeah,
she was saying basically within the space. Was her saying, when you ignore those nudgings, she said, had she ignored it, she wouldn't, kind of think she would have missed it.
yeah.
For those of you who want to see that, it's the episode that she posted on Claire Audience. Again, her name is Constance Mesmer, Messner, and it's within the first 4 minutes. It's like 3 minutes and 40 seconds on listen. It happens right before that. And that's when she says that. And you'll see the part that I'm talking about. But basically, she's saying when you ignore those nudgings and signals, that's like hanging up the phone on Spirit. And then
Mm,
you can kind of close that channel off because they know that they can't reach you that way. So they're not even going to waste their time trying. So I'm beaming and I'm thinking, this is great. I'm having all of these synchronicities in succession, like understanding I drug myself out of bed because Spirit told me to and said, no, you need to go to work. Got up to stretch my legs and go on that walk when I felt the urge to, because I could have sat at my desk and kept working, but I decided in that moment to take a break. It's not like I could have orchestrated going out exactly at 11:11 and taking a picture of these birds, right? I didn't know they were going to be there. I was in my head on my walk, and Spirit showed up in this way. And so now it gets to the point where I'm like, so I'm heeding the omens. The message is confirmed. I'm feeling great about everything, no matter how terrible the vision felt in that
mm,
moment. And so um I thought to myself, well, whatever I'm supposed to do with this, I'll know. Like Spirit's gonna let me know. So I feel drawn a few days later. I need to email Omar because I have this picture that I took. And so I took a screenshot of those hawks. And at the time that I took the picture, they seemed further away than what they actually were.
mm,
Because from the time they were right above me until they flew, birds can cover a pretty great distance in a short amount of time.
yeah.
So they look pretty far away in the picture, but you can see that they're there and you see the timestamp that's in the screenshot. So I email Omar, um, the screenshot. I let him know what came through and I was experiencing and that I was ready to speak on it because before that, you read was the 26th, wasn't it? Today's what? Today's
Oh,
the 30th.
30th. Yeah.
So the episode you had posted, it was a live that you were doing, and you were doing you were pulling cards and you were doing readings for the collective.
Mm,
And I asked you, um, you know, to see what Spirit has to say of whether or not I should share this vision. And so to anyone who wants to see that episode, it was the morning of the live, the morning of the 26th.
mm,
And I forget which timestamp it was, but it was towards the end of the episode. I was one of the last people that you helped before you closed the session out.
mm.
And so you, Omar, got to play a part of the camel driver of
Oh.
sorts. Um, so basically when I asked you to and you pulled the cards, I'll go with the cards first. So you pull two cards for me. The first one you pull is a number 11 and it's justice, basically saying, yes, you're supposed to share this. You expanded on it, and before you'd even pulled the card, you stopped and you're like, you know what I'm always gonna say about it. You're like, I used to have these things that would pull up that would come up for you, and then you would post stuff and delete it, and you would second guess it.
Mm,
And now you're of the mind fully like, look, if it came to you and you feel that there's something in it worth sharing, then share it. And so you had said that before. And so in my mind, it's echoing for me like, oh, we see the omens,
yeah.
that encouragement, that invitation of like, of course, like speak your truth. And so you pull the second card, and it was a number 10 card, and I forget what the second card was.
Ten of Pentacles, I think.
Ten of Pentacles, you're right. And I don't remember what it was and how you worded it exactly, but in paraphrasing, you were basically saying like truthfully, like, oh yes, this isn't just about being confident about it, but this is who you're supposed to be.
Yeah, yeah, something.
Like
Yeah, I
this
got
is
chills. So yeah, something with that. Yeah.
right, right. And for me, that was me needing to hear it because I had an understanding. I'm okay with these visionary experiences for myself, but when I get them for other people, it makes me go, a little bit. And then it was a confirmation again, encouragement, like the camel driver was talking the young boy Santiago into moving forward with it and accepting things, and
Hmm.
you know, so it was like cool. Um, Feeling great about it all, reeling because as you're speaking it in the order that you're speaking it and the way that the card is drawn, when you put the cards together, 11, 10, it's 1, 1, 1, 0. And then the time that I got. So the ones were showing up for me to confirm it every time.
Mm.
And so I was beaming about that. The message was echoing stuff from The Alchemist. Um, and I was like, cool. And then you invited me at the end of the reading, the message you shared, like even if you want to share it, you said you can come on, we can talk about it. And so you and I had a conversation between me emailing you in this episode. And at the end of our conversation, you said there was one card that was there, but you didn't share it
Yeah,
during the
yeah.
live, but you shared it with me on the call. And I forget which card you said it was, but what did it have on it, Omar?
A white horse. The guy riding the white horse, the Six of Wands, I believe. Yeah. The
Yeah,
victory card,
the
victory.
victory card. That's what it was.
Yeah, on
And
the white
so
horse.
the white horse, and that was the last card to show up for me. And that was like, that was the chef's kiss on top of this one. And I was like, yeah, yeah. And so in that order of the experience of the vision that I had and looking back at it, I was just reeling. I was like, you gotta be kidding me. Because this book has always meant something to me. And there's bits and
Mm.
pieces of it that very tongue in cheek, I kind of say to myself, like, oh, there's parts of me that are similar to this young boy. Not saying like I am the alchemist, but I see a lot of myself in the fable of the journey of this young man trying to realize his personal legend. And the vision, the birds, the time that it happened, the synchronicity of the podcast that I had, the cards that you pulled and the reading that you gave, the invitation, the encouragement, the imagery of the cards and the message that they had, all of that was for me reminiscent. Like bits and pieces of this story were playing in my mind each time it would come through. And so that's why I wanted to share it too, is because listening to those nudges and voices can take some practice. It's been years. Like I had these experiences as a young man, as a kid, but I was sober for the first 30 years of my life. No plant medicine, no meditation, none of the stuff of a spiritual practice. It's just I only understood these visionary experiences in the realm of dreams.
Mm.
And it's easy to dismiss some of these dreams that we find scary or whatever. And so I only knew it in that context. But having gotten to the same liminal space that I described at the beginning of this podcast, I've gotten there through meditation. I've gotten there through plant medicine. I've gotten there through just sitting introspection. Um, and then, of course, in the visionary state when I'm dreaming.
Mm.
And I used to describe it, and it was not apt. It was a terrible description because it only meant something to me. Before this would happen, I would talk about it as my body would feel like I was turning into stone, where it was like the way that this sensation would register in my nervous system before I would be in this space where there was no time. And it didn't make sense. The birds were the teacher. A couple of years ago, or months ago, actually, not years, a few months ago, I was picking my kids up from school, and hawks showed up for me to be a teacher again. And they helped me to understand and articulate that sensation of how I get to this space a little bit clearer. And it was usually when I would pick my kids up from school, I would sit in the car, I would listen to frequency and just do some breath work with my eyes closed, just kind of sit back and relax until they got out of school. But that particular day, it was nice. The weather was decent. I live in the Central Valley, so there's a lot of fields that are out here. And across from my kids' high school, there's an open field. And I happened to just watch out the window, and then I saw these hawks flying. There was three or four of
Mm.
them. They all peeled off until there was one left. And it was circling. And then as I was watching it fly, I had never seen this before. I think hawks are a form of kestrels. I think. I'm not entirely sure. But it was hovering in place. It looked like someone hit the pause button and it just froze in the air.
Mm,
It wasn't moving. I mean, it was micro movements, but from my perspective, it was completely still.
mm,
And as I'm watching it, there's this gentle knowing that comes through of like, that's that's what it feels like to slip out of body and experience a space where there's no time. And it was
mm,
this. It was if the air is time and it's moving linear, instead of it pushing you or you riding it, you're able to stop and let it flow around you instead of through you.
mm,
And that kestrel was demonstrating what I feel like in that space, whether it's meditation or breath work. There's that sensation where you can feel for me, the sensation of time moving around me is like a kestrel hovering in place, where
mm,
it's an element that's moving. And if I so choose in that space, I can let it carry me. But there's a way for me to position myself in a way that I can be so still where it's going around me.
mm,
And that's what being in that liminal space is like. It's like hovering like a kestrel in one spot. And that sensation of time not existing, but you can feel it on the edges washing around you. That's the feeling I have in these visionary spaces. When I'm
mm,
in these liminal spaces or I'm in the void, or it's something where I'm really deep, deep, deep into experience, that means I'm a little further away from disembodied existence and I'm somewhere where time doesn't exist, where possibility is different. And spirit can meet you halfway wherever you are. And but in this space particularly, it's there's a clarity there that doesn't exist. There's a stillness that's so unique. And it's a trip because when I would get through meditation, closing your eyes, falling into that that breathing pattern, um, it feels like, oh, I just closed my eyes. It's 20 minutes, and I open my eyes, and I'm like, that was 2.5 hours.
mm,
And I was in this other place where it felt like I was gone for just a moment, for just a little bit of time. And so sometimes if you feel displaced, that weird gut feeling, sometimes like when you're going down a roller coaster, sometimes that's that feeling, at least my perception of it is that's that's time moving through you a little bit different. That's where it'll speed up or slow down and things feel a little disconjointed. That's like your soul settling inside your body and there's that movement. And it's a spiritual movement. It's usually pretty positive. But for me, that's what it feels like as a sensation. It's less of a gut feeling and more of um, that ripple of time. Sometimes it's just one little thing like washing over me, but sometimes it's resonant, sometimes it's vibrates, sometimes it pulsates, but it's there sometimes. And you feel it in your third eye and your crown kind of thing too.
mm. Yeah, yeah. No, thank you so much for sharing. You actually brought back a memory of an experience I had like that. So that's fun. And there were birds involved as well. So that's so funny. Yeah. But yeah. Well, I could share it. You want me to share it? Because I don't.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I love hearing these.
Yeah, it was before the pandemic, and I had a dream. There were two eagles, and yeah, me and the eagles were moving at a certain speed, and everything was moving like really fast all around us, right? All the people were like, I mean, the eagles were like very calm, slow moving, everything, and we were indoors, and it was just so many people there. But it was, I don't know if they were like moving even through us. It was just like they were just like, yeah, it almost looked like light flowing, right? But I could see that they were people, right? Almost looked like if you were to do a time lapse of a subway station or something, right? And the two eagles were up there. And so similar like that, like heed the omens, right? One day I was driving up to the mountains and I was about to turn back when my radio started moving by itself and it stopped at 13. And my brother's name, the one that had passed away, started, 13 is the letter M. So I was like, whoa. So I kept going just because of that. And I went all the way to the top of the mountain. On the way back, I saw these people with cameras. So I was like, what are you? So I stopped and I'm like, oh, what do you guys have? Big old heavy duty cameras. And then they're like, oh, there's some eagles right here. I was like, what? Because here, I guess they had for like 100 years there were no eagles because they had killed them back in the days, and so they had just been there for like I think that was the second year they were there, and they had a nest there, and then so for the next 5 years out they became like my safe haven, right? The eagles, right? But it was funny because first they came to me in a vision, and it was like that we were in this sacred space where we were at a certain pace, and everybody else uh was moving at a different pace, right? But I think they were giving me that vision of like the pandemic, right? Because I was right before the pandemic indoors. It's like time was moving, but everyone was stuck indoors. Like I get it now, if that's making sense, like what
Yeah,
they were
yeah,
showing me. And
yeah.
my brother led me there. And so yeah, but it was interesting. There was some other synchronicity, well, not synchronicity, but other things you were reminding me of right now as you were sharing that. But I forgot it left me. But that one jumped out at me. How the birds, right? It's funny. It's like they exist outside of this time, you know?
I had a funny one too that happened. Um, was it yesterday or the day before? I'd have to check my phone. But before that, I left something out. When you and I had that conversation where you told me about the other card, the one that you didn't mention in the live when you did the reading of the white horse on it, of victory. When we were talking, there was a point where you paused because you thought I had said something.
Oh, yeah.
Um, I was listening, within the conversation, I was engaged entirely. But when it had happened and it paused, I looked at my phone because I thought something had happened. Sometimes when you get a notification, your phone will make a noise, and I looked down at my phone because it lit up, and I thought, no notification came through. But when I had looked down, I was still listening to you because I said, no, I didn't say anything. Continue. And I was looking at my phone and I was listening to you talk. But that pause had happened at 1 hour and 11 minutes into our conversation in 11
Yeah.
seconds.
Oh,
And
1 1 1 1 1, huh?
and when you had finished talking, I let you know. I said, just real quick, what happened when you paused earlier? And you're like, oh, I heard you say something. And I was like, no, I didn't say anything. And then I let you know. I was like, do you know what time it was when that happened? And you were like, oh, okay. And you're like, all the fives are showing up for you
Yeah. Yeah.
because one plus, it was the five
Yeah.
ones. You're like, oh, it comes out to five.
Yeah. That's
So
fine.
with birds, so besides the job that I have on the path that I am, I'm a plant medicine practitioner. And so I help people in looking at using cannabis in a different way. Um, it's not like it's unconventional, it's just not common.
Hmm.
And so I help people doing that with breath work, and it's stuff that I do for myself because of some medical issues that I have. And so is a practical and spiritual use for me. So having to go back to a regular job and trying to figure out what I want to do and stuff looking forward, I got into the mindset of trying to plan. And my wife had brought it up to me. She's like, what would it look like for you to have a sort of practice like where you can help people and be fulfilled still? And so it had me in the mindset just a couple of days ago of like, yeah. So I was on a walk again at work on a break, and I was just thinking to myself, like, so if I wasn't walking back to work and in this moment I had everything that I needed, I had abundance of time and money to do with what I pleased, what would it look like and how I would help people? How would it be different for me based, what can I build on from what I do now? And so I'm having this slow introspective meditation, walking meditation, planning a potential future for myself and how I would do that. And so as I'm on my walk, slowly thinking like, okay, is it through cannabis and breath work? Is it through um, conversation? Is it doing readings? Because you know how different people, you've interviewed a lot of people that are gifted, and we can all get to the same place in different ways. And I'm thinking that all these people that are, you know, they read palms, other hold objects. Some people, they don't even need to meet you. They say, just tell me the names and that's all I need. There's different ways that people do readings, and they commune and speak with spirit, whether it's directly with other people's spirit guides or ancestors. I can go on and on, but you get it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm thinking, what's new for me to try? What's something different I can do to kind of grow on my path? Because I don't want to limit myself to just these handful of things that I'm comfortable with doing. I know that I'm capable of more. and I want to help people. And what does that look like? What's the best way for me to serve spirit and my fellow man and woman here, my brothers and sisters while I'm here? And I'm going through this slow list. And while I'm walking and thinking about this, spirit said, literally in my mind, I heard, "Hey, watch this." And I was got a sense to look to my left, and where I walk, there's a business district, and there's not a back alleyway, but a back roadway, and there's dealerships. So there's cars that come by there every so often because they do their little test drives there. The
Mm.
mechanics do, and plus people are coming and going. And it was just the one car, and Spirit said, "Hey, check this out, watch this." And so I look, and the car comes and it turns, and the last and numbers come to me this way sometimes. The last three numbers of the license plate was 333. And
Oh.
that morning, one of the intentions that I had set was I called in the Ascended Masters. I'd
Mm.
asked for some big gun help. Like, look, I don't want my angels here with me because I was still thinking about the vision that I had and things that I'm experiencing and the duality again of like working and stuff. And it's like I enjoy the job that I have and I'm grateful for the opportunity, but it's like I really would love to be able to have more of these experiences to where I can serve it because it feels good and it brings a lot of joy into my life to live so honestly and openly to
Yeah.
be true on this level. Like I enjoy it. And so that showed up of them a wink and a nod being like, "We're with you. Everything you're thinking about how you want to plan a future." That was a huge thumbs up from them. And so I was kind of smiling to myself. I was like, okay, so let me take this a little more seriously. Um, And so I was going through the list of things, like what new things should I try? And I was slowly going through a list of things. And as I was walking, a crow got my attention, or a raven. I can't really tell them apart, but it was a big ass blackbird, probably a crow. And there's two pine trees. And where I work, there's still some old growth trees that are really big that are in this business district. They land, and it's right when I'm approaching the parking lot about to cross the street. And so I'm still running through and I'm watching this bird. And I'm going through a list of things and I hit one particular thing. And the moment my brain falls on that, my thoughts fall on that, this crow caws three sets of three. It does caw, 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 caw. It does it three times, like a siren
Mm.
or alert. And it was rhythmic. And I was like, no, really? It's that like it was that on the nose because it was the moment I hit that thing, that's when the bird decided to start singing. And so I'm thinking to myself, like, okay, okay, I hear you. And I very softly muttered to myself because I still wanted a confirmation. I said, if you can confirm that, give me one more. And with like, because it was so loud to get my attention. And I said, just give me one more. And as I was saying, just give me one more, the bird just went, ah, and then flew off. It looked at me and then flew off. It was like yeah, here you go. I'll throw you one more. It was softer because it knew I was listening, and then it took off. And so, yeah, it's wonderful how these synchronicities show up and how it's not just what's going on within, but without.
Yeah.
And it was the hardest I had laughed in a while because it was how comical. I don't know, like the Outcast video, um, Miss Jackson. I don't, um,
Haven't seen it in a long time, but I know what song. Yeah.
I remember watching the behind the scenes thing, and there's a part in the video where they have the owl, and it's the part
Oh.
where he does forever, forever, ever, and then the owl
Oh.
turns and it mouths the forever, ever part.
Oh, wow.
And it
Okay.
did it on cue.
Mm.
And I remember hearing about, behind the scenes thing where they were saying that had happened. It was like that. Like it was musical and it was rhythmic and it was on cue. Like it was like the bird was waiting for its part. Like, yeah,
Mm.
hurry up, say your thing, question it so I can give this call and go on about my day kind of thing. But yeah, that just came through and I just thought I'd share that part of that other synchronicity that happened.
Yeah. No, there's that story. You never heard that story about DMX that he was battle rapping somebody and he says something, "Da-da-da,"
And the
you know,
dog.
yeah, and then the dog goes right on cue. It's like,
Yes, yeah, I did hear that.
yeah,
I
yeah.
think
So
it
I
was on
look,
Drink Champs. Someone was saying they were talking about that on that
yeah,
podcast, and
probably,
someone
yeah,
was saying
yeah,
how they were saying that he had those dogs trained because the dog did it on command when he would freestyle in the
yeah.
streets.
No, but it was just like they were just that in synchronicity, It was like, yeah, yeah. It was just that it just happened, right? Like, yeah, they were that in sync with them. You know what I mean? It wasn't even like they didn't lit. The dog didn't do it to like be part of his act. They just happened to do it. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
it felt, you know, I could go all the way back and talk about but nah, I won't, because
Okay.
then that opens up a whole another thing. But you know, it's like this. Okay, I'll just say this briefly. It's like I get the move. Most people that had NDEs get it, right? Get
Yeah.
the movie part of this experience. I'll put it to you like this: when I started acting, I started having tons of crazy like that. Anything that was happening to me in real life, I would get to set, and that's what I was doing. And I was like, dude, you gotta be kidding me. Like, so I got to see even like who's writing. I would look up literally like who's writing. Like this script is too exact. Like how who's writing. You know what I mean? So I got to see even that side of it. Maybe that's when they were trying to really open me up to like, because I hadn't seen yet like how because after right, that's when I was shown like how the things I had agreed on and all this, you know, more and more things started opening up. But when I started acting, I was getting glimpses of that, right? Like it was too perfect. The script was too like, okay, you know, like, yeah, anything that was happening, like, let's say, for example, not that this, I don't think this happened, but for example, like, let's say my car were to break down and then I get to set and it's like, oh, you're going to be right here. Your car breaks down, you know, like that kind of stuff. I was like, what? Like, how is this even possible? Right. Or once I had stopped, my dad was in the hospital and he was in his hospital gown and I took a picture of him. And then when I got to set, they put me in a hospital gown. I was like, dude, you gotta, and I didn't even know that's what was gonna happen, right? But I was like, you got it. And I sent them a picture. I was like, dude, like, you know, he had, I forgot what was happening with him, but you know, he ended up in the hospital and I stopped to visit him, right? Cause, you know, it was just whatever. And then, you know, make sure he's okay and everything. And then, I took a picture of him in his hospital gown, and then I get to set, and they're like, "Oh, do you mind putting this on?" And I was like, "What?" So I was getting crazy, crazy things like that. So I got it. Like, wow, this whole, you know, Busy Bone a long time ago, he released this album, Heaven's Movie kind of thing, you know. So I don't know if you remember or if you listen to Bone Thugs at all.
I did when I was younger, but I haven't since.
Yeah,
Now
but
it's been years. It's
yeah,
been
so
years.
you know, it's like all those things, right? Like it really is, you know. So I don't know. We should circle all the way back, but just to understand, like the movie, right? Like what role are you gonna play, I guess, in this movie, right? And once you have the understanding, like you know, I think you get that for the most part, right? Like how it is like you're literally shown you watching a movie. I get that, right? Because even that, having visions and stuff, sometimes it's shown to me like a movie, right? Like I'll see this thing playing. So it's really interesting, right?
I mean, when you think about it, I mean, I'm not saying like, I'm not saying your Samsung TV is a spirit animal, but instead of animals showing up for us, we live in a time of technology. And so there's going to be ways that things are going to show up for us as an analogy, and movies are analogous. Like, we can tell stories now and invoke imagery through our words and use those things like, well, it's like a movie. Because
Yeah.
before that, how would you explain a vision? Like,
That's
how
true.
challenging would
Yeah,
it be?
yeah.
And
Yeah.
I mean, when you think about, and one of the books I recommended to you, that I shared with you, Visionary by Graham
Mm,
Hancock. One of the reasons why I was so fascinated and I enjoyed that book so much and identifying it was because you look at history has been recorded through indigenous peoples, uh, tribes that have existed in the past, and we don't understand what the cave art means. We don't understand what the
mm,
drawings mean. And he was able to make sense of, I think it's called The Wounded Man, and it's his imagery of these stick figures with these lines going through them. And there's a tribe that no longer exists, but their language does, and there's a handful of people that still speak it. And so in Graham Hancock's book, he talks about having a conversation and having a better understanding because it lived on through the language to explain what the meaning of that image is. And it has to do with the experience of um, these energetic threads that we have that go through us. And being bent at a certain angle with this energy going through you is representative of something that a shaman would do to make the energy more intense, to make the healing stronger,
Mm.
to make the vision deeper. And so he explores that in the book. And so that's how they would communicate imagery and these experiences is we don't understand these drawings. In the same way that if we were to switch place and time, how well would they understand the imagery and how this, this technology would work? And then how is it communicated to other people? And so for us right now, being shown a movie and the analogy of it makes total sense because it's of our time. Those
Yeah,
visions and those and the way that spirit communicates to us is unique to this human experience. How
yeah,
many other people, human beings in this human experience, have had that type of spiritual communication to where it's explained that way? I mean, we carry these little crystal balls with us where, you know, really
yeah,
they're made of quartz, they're made of minerals and stuff, and they're put together in a very specific way and metals, and they send signals back and forth. Like, back then they had crystal balls, or they would have tools of divination that would allow them to do these things that we have to do with technology. You
yeah.
push a button, and back then they're able to do it. And there's certain people that can do that now. Out of body experiences, remote viewing, like it's coming more into the lexicon of our speech, and we're able to communicate it differently. But for now, the movie analogy sits it serves its purpose.
Yeah, absolutely. And see, and even with that, there's so much I want to share, but I feel like unless you've experienced this, see, like I gotta have the conversation with you, and it feels like you'll be able to understand that analogy, right? Or certain things. But like if people haven't experienced it, like even us describing this like
It sounds
a
like bullshit
movie.
to some people.
Yeah, yeah, maybe
To
that or
some
just
people.
not getting. Oh man, because there's so much, yeah, like that. Like even us talking about being there and time kind of freezes or different things or time moves at a different pace, all that. Like, um, yeah, yeah. Like there's so much and but I think we're getting there regardless. Or at least people probably watching here, they're already have that awareness, right? So, but
More
you
and more
know,
people are having these experiences for
yeah,
sure.
absolutely. I mean, even kids, right? Like have you listened to the telepathy tapes?
Yeah, I listened to 2 or 3 episodes, and I was really drawn in, about the where they meet on the hill
Yeah.
and the stuff. Yeah, so yes.
Yeah. And I mean, I've had those like yeah, I won't share about that yet, but I've had some interesting experiences with things that they were sharing in like the telepathy tape. So it's pretty fascinating, right? So yeah, even kids are able to tap into these spaces. And these are like prophetic things. They said like, "Oh, there will be a time when, you know, a lot of people were going to start having more visions and people were going to start connecting in that way." Like these are prophetic things and I feel like we're in those times and I feel one thing that's really common is I've had so many people tell me that they'll have these visions of them having like superpowers, right? I've had those visions, and so I feel like it's just a matter of time before that starts happening here in this movie, so to speak, right? Where we just start, people will start I mean, I know there's already people that, but everything's probably still more secretive, right? People don't want to share those kind of things. But eventually like I've had visions where I was underwater and I started panicking, like I'm about to drown, and then it's all of a sudden like, wait, I can breathe underwater? Like what? Like, and I'm just like, oh, okay, I'm okay. Like what? And that kind of resonate like that movie Waterworld, right? Where in the future it was like certain well, I think in the movie it's just him, right? They make it like it's just
It's
Kevin
just him.
Costner.
Yeah, yeah.
Somehow some freakish thing happened to him where now he could breathe underwater. But in
Hmm.
this vision I had, I remember being around other people as well. I know there were other people. So I always thought like, I don't know, either this was a past life thing, or it was like some kind of future thing, right? Like where we would be able to breathe. underwater. It's really interesting. So I don't know.
Well, but on the subject of even just communicating and how people are more receptive to hearing it and it making sense and stuff, um, music, hip hop,
Oh, okay.
like you think about our favorite artists that we grew up listening to, the stuff that they would rap about then versus now. There's some MCs out there, Method Man, where some of the spiritual bars kind of leak in from time to time. Coast Contra,
Mm.
I had mentioned to you. Um, even Snoop, like the song that he came out with recently and Jelly Rolls On about Mary Jane.
Oh,
Um,
I haven't heard it.
um, like he's talking about his journey in use with cannabis.
Oh,
And
okay.
it's a video, and it's basically him. You can see like how like it's him paying homage and respect to it as a medicine.
Ah,
Um, but yeah, I mean, I mentioned Harry Mack to you. He's a freestyle rapper. He's pretty much clean when he raps on the spot. But there's spirituality that's leaking into it. I'm hearing it more and more versus like when I was in the late 90s, early
hmm.
2000s, it was about money, women,
Yeah.
partying. Um, Now there's a little bit more substance than depth to it. And
Mm.
I think it has to do with because the internet came about and people want to talk bad about YouTube rappers, but it's like there's some really good talent out there. It just means you just didn't have to go through a label. You could, self-produce and get out that way. And before it was just either hip hop and rap, and then there was Christian rap. And that form's always been around, but it's been in its own little box. I didn't grow up listening to Christian rap. It wasn't my
Yeah.
thing. But it's a thing that exists. But now you can kind of throw that out there. And like I said, there's mainstream MCs that you hear a third eye reference, you hear energy and chakras and being
Mm.
grounded, you hear stuff about stuff like that. The double entendres where they're talking more about peace and what they want out of life. Like, am I really hearing this right? Like for real? And so, yeah, even the way it's spoken and hip hop's a huge driving factor in our culture.
Yeah.
Um, so I'm just the way conversations are happening now, people are more open to it. A lot more people that are in public eye are having near-death experiences or out-of-body experiences, or they're going into the jungle and they're having these healing experiences with plant medicine. And so it's seeping into the culture little by little.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's an exciting thing. And then on the flip side, I see more resistance because that's just part of the natural thing, right? As things begin to evolve, there's that thing on the other side that wants to keep things how they are, right? Something, this kind of energy that's afraid of the change, right? Or losing power, right? Obviously there's a structure that's been set up in this reality, and so there's that pushback. And I think that's why, see, even like you having these visions of all this chaotic thing happening, that's a result of um them feeling, right? They know the change is coming, but it's that last attempt to like either destroy it. Like you've heard that, like even with just people in relation, oh, if I can't have you, no one will, kind of like it's like that mentality, like, which is scary because it's almost like, there was this famous emperor, was it Nero in Rome, that just burned down. He's the one that they say, I don't know if this really happened, right? But they say like he was playing a fiddle while Rome burned. It was like he was so nuts, like it was like, I'm just gonna burn it all down, like rather than, I don't know if he was about to lose power or what, but there really exists that kind of energy. I think he's even in biblical things, like they even almost, he kind of, now that we're like, or that I'm bringing that up, it almost reminds me of a Trump, maybe Trump's the reincarnated Nero, because they even tied him into like this. I've even heard religious people almost saying like, oh, this antichrist was gonna be like the rebirth or reincarnation of Nero, of the Emperor Nero or something. But I think that was his thing. He was like like he was the one that burned Rome or something like that. Like something like that. Yeah.
Yeah,
Don't
the
quote me
message is subliminal.
100%, but yeah.
No, yeah, and I need to rewatch that video I mentioned to you about the Hopi.
Oh,
prophecy
yeah,
of
yeah.
it's the Hopi prophecy of the crooked cross and the man with the red hat.
Mm.
I think it was from like the 1800s, and it's been passed down, and it was retold in the 1920s, or maybe it happened in the early 1900s. I just remember it was passed down, and then there's the video from the 1970s where one of the chiefs I think he's a chief. He's explaining the legend, and it's kind of long. It's like a 45-minute long thing. There's different versions of it. Some are 20 minutes long, some are 15 minutes long, but it's an old grainy video, and it's them explaining this old Hopi legend that was a vision that was passed along, and it was told as it was a potential future, but it's one that is pretty powerful if it does happen, and it's not great. And they talk about the cycles and how they came to it, and yeah, they talk about how charismatic and how dynamic the man with the red hat would be, but how dangerous he's going to be for the people and for this planet, and that there's going to be a seducer of men kind of a thing. And
Mm.
I'm paraphrasing, but I just remember the way it was told from an indigenous perspective because they didn't have a sense of the modern world, so they had to explain what they had saw, because it was a future vision
Yeah.
back then. And so the way it's like watching an old cartoon of what we would think of what the future would look like. It's like
Yeah.
the Jetsons. It's like you weren't quite right on that, but I understood where you were coming from,
Yeah.
kind of a thing. And so there's bits and pieces of that where it sounded a little wrong. You're like, well, this isn't right because it's not this. And it's like, keep in mind, this technology wasn't even anywhere near the human consciousness yet with what we have now. And so, again, it brings me back to what would an indigenous person that has never dealt with these kinds of things, what would that vision look like? So they were trying to explain the technology and the stuff that we have now. And so, but it's apt. The man with the red hat, and there's bits and pieces they describe. You go, oh, that's now. That's happening now.
Mm. I'm gonna put a link to it. I haven't even watched it. I know you send it to me and everything. You send it to me, right?
I did. It's
Yeah.
long. The one I sent you is maybe 30, 40 minutes long, and it leads up to it because it's him giving a speech about some of the way indigenous were treated then and the culture stuff. It's a beautiful conversation. It's been a couple of years since I've seen it, but I
Okay.
remember it was impactful and it was a beautiful conversation, but also a little unsettling because it rang too true in bits
Yeah.
and pieces.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, well, I'll put the link to it. Well, yeah, I mean, I don't wanna keep, I know this is pretty long. It'll be a lot for everybody to
Yeah.
digest.
Yeah.
And
Thanks for being patient, everyone. I'm sorry. I like
no,
to
no,
talk.
no, it's good. I enjoy these conversations, but I feel like if we can keep it going, it'll end up being 3 hours long. I could keep the because every time we say something, then it reminds me of something else, and it reminds me of something else. So I could keep this going, but I
Same.
think it's a good time to close it out. Yeah, anything else you want to say in closing? Thank you so much for sharing your vision. Uh, you know, to me, even anything that's unsettling, it doesn't bother me, right? Like, so thank you. I'm appreciative of anyone that shares, what they're getting. So thank you for sharing.
Oh, thanks for having me, man, and for listening and for, being open between my experience and now. Like it, not many people are willing to sit and listen. Like even the
Mm,
people that walk the spiritual path, like there's limits to how they want to engage in the conversation because it's like, well, if I don't
mm,
experience it that way, I don't want to hear it kind of a thing. So
no,
it's great how open you are to listening. So I appreciate that.
absolutely, absolutely. So thank you to everybody for watching. Leave some comments. Let us know what you think. If you've had any similar experiences. And yeah, that's it. Thank you.
I appreciate it, man. Have a good one. Thank you.
You too. Thank you.
Life may move fast, or it may move slow. I met a silly man who said he make it slow. We look up out towards space, or even at the sky. One day pass away, but never look inside. Breathe in, breathe out. Life is a maze, but we'll figure this out. I mean, human beings, I ain't got no doubt.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, sometimes you just feeling it, you know what I'm saying? You just feeling it. And I wanna feel this way forever, ever.